She didn't leave because he cheated, she left because of the way he looked at someone else. Most people think betrayal begins with secrets, late-night calls, hidden messages, passwords suddenly changed. But in her case, it started much earlier. It started with a look. Ethan used to look at her like she mattered, not like she was perfect, not like she was everything, but like she was enough. His love had never been loud or dramatic. It was steady, quiet, safe, the kind of love that made you believe things would last. That was why she didn't notice the change immediately. It didn't happen all at once. At first, it was small. He replied a little later than usual. Their conversations grew shorter. The laughter faded. She told herself it was stress. Work. Life, anything but the truth. Then came the distance. He would sit beside her, yet feel completely elsewhere. She would speak, and he would respond, but without attention, without presence. And slowly, she realized something else. He had stopped looking at her the same way, not entirely, just enough for her to notice. That was when she knew something had shifted. She didn't confront him, not yet. There was no proof, no clear evidence. But there was a quiet certainty she couldn't ignore. Something was wrong, and eventually, she found the reason. It wasn't dramatic, no hidden phone, no elaborate secrets, just a name that appeared too often. Ava. At first, it meant nothing, just another contact, another conversation, but over time, the pattern became impossible to ignore. The messages weren't just frequent, they were deliberate, carefully worded, gentle, personal. It wasn't casual. Ethan wasn't just talking to Ava, he was choosing her, message by message, moment by moment. She stared at the screen longer than she should have, waiting for a reaction, anger, pain, shock. But what came instead was something unexpected, calm, a quiet, unsettling calm. It felt as though part of her had already accepted what her mind hadn't fully admitted yet. Still, she said nothing. She didn't confront him, didn't ask questions. Instead, she watched. She wanted to see how far he would go without being stopped, and he went further than she expected. The late nights became more frequent, at first occasional, then routine. Work, he would say, and she would nod, not because she believed him, but because she wanted to see how easily he would continue lying. It turned out very easily, without resistance. He became comfortable. That was when everything became clearer. She noticed the patterns, the way he smiled at his phone, the way he angled the screen away, not obviously, just enough, the way his mood depended on it. When Ava texted, he seemed lighter. When she didn't, he withdrew, and that realization hurt more than the cheating itself, because it meant Ava wasn't temporary, she mattered. By then, the relationship was already over. Neither of them had said it, but it was clear. The first time she saw Ava in person wasn't planned. She had gone out that evening to clear her head, to create distance, and then she saw them, across the street, standing close, laughing easily. For a moment, she couldn't move, not because she was shocked, but because something felt off. It wasn't just the betrayal, there was something else, something she couldn't immediately explain. She watched them longer than she intended, studying the details, the way they stood, the way they looked at each other, and gradually, she noticed it, not a sudden realization, but something that became clearer the longer she looked. They resembled each other, not perfectly, not enough to be obvious at first glance, but enough to feel unsettling. Their expressions were similar, their eyes moved the same way when they smiled, even their reactions seemed aligned. She frowned slightly. It didn't make sense. At first, she dismissed it, assumed she was overthinking, but the thought lingered. Instead of walking away, she stepped closer, and that was when Ethan saw her. Everything changed instantly. His expression shifted, from relaxed to tense in a second. "What are you doing here?" he asked. She didn't respond immediately. Her attention was on Ava. Ava looked surprised, but not guilty. That was unexpected. There was no discomfort, no panic, just calm curiosity, and somehow, that made the situation even more confusing. If Ava knew about her, shouldn't there be some reaction? But there wasn't, and before she could think it through, she spoke. "You two look like siblings." The words came out without planning. For a moment, silence followed, then Ethan laughed, too quickly, too loudly. "That's a strange thing to say," he replied. Ava smiled slightly, but something in her expression shifted for a brief second, before returning to normal. The moment passed, and suddenly, the comment felt out of place. She nodded lightly. "Just a random thought," she said. No one questioned it further, but even as the conversation moved on, the thought didn't leave her. It stayed at the back of her mind, quiet, persistent. That night, she made her decision. she wouldn't fight for someone who had already made his choice, so she left, no argument, no confrontation, just distance, and what stayed with her the most was that he didn't try to stop her. Leaving him should have felt like heartbreak, but it didn't, not because she didn't care, but because the ending had already happened long before she walked away. In truth, the relationship had been over in silence. She was just the last one to admit it. Ethan didn't call after she left, not that night, not the next day, not even after a week, and somehow, that silence confirmed everything she already knew. He hadn't been confused. He hadn't been torn, he had simply moved on, too. Ava. At first, she told herself she wouldn't check, no social media. No updates. No curiosity, but healing rarely works that cleanly. Eventually, she looked, and what she found erased any doubt. Ethan and Ava were no longer hidden, they weren't careful anymore. Pictures began to appear, dinner outings. Late-night walks. Shared moments that once belonged to her, now they belonged to someone else. Ava, what hurt most wasn't the presence of another woman, it was how natural it all looked, as if she had never been part of his life at all, as if she had been replaced without resistance. She studied one image longer than she intended. Ethan and Ava sat side by side, comfortable and close. There was ease between them, familiarity, and once again, that same thought returned. They resembled each other, not in a way that demanded attention, but in a way that became obvious once noticed. Their expressions mirrored one another. Their smiles carried the same shape, even their posture seemed synchronized. She closed her phone, trying to dismiss it, but the thought stayed, quiet. Persistent. Unresolved. Days passed, then weeks. She focused on rebuilding herself, on distance, on silence. Slowly, life began to feel normal again, until Ethan called. She hesitated before answering, then picked up. Hello? There was a pause on the line, then his voice came through. It's me. Nothing more. She exhaled lightly. What do you want? Another pause. I just wanted to hear your voice. She almost laughed, but didn't. Don't do that, she said calmly. Do what? Pretend I still matter in your life. Silence followed, then he spoke again. I chose her. Simple, direct, final, and strangely, hearing it out loud didn't hurt as much as expected. It only made things clearer. Then why are you calling me? She asked. I don't know, he admitted. For once, he sounded uncertain, not in control, not composed. Something was wrong, but she didn't know what. Are you okay? She asked after a pause. I'm fine, he said quickly, too quickly. That alone told her the truth. He wasn't fine, but he didn't elaborate, and she didn't push. The call ended shortly after, but it stayed with her. The tone, the hesitation, the emptiness behind his words, it didn't match the life he had chosen. Weeks later, she heard something unexpected, from a mutual acquaintance. Something had happened at Ethan's house, something involving Ava's mother. The details were unclear, but one thing was certain, everything had changed after that visit. Ethan was no longer the same, and neither was Ava. Then, just like that, they disappeared from public view. No more posts, no more sightings, no more shared appearances, as if something had broken them apart completely, and no one knew what. But she had a growing suspicion. Something in that house had revealed more than anyone was ready for, and whatever it was, it hadn't stayed hidden for long. She didn't expect to see Ethan again. After everything that had happened, she had already accepted the silence. No explanations. No closure. Just an ending that never properly announced itself. So when she saw him standing across the street one evening, it took her a moment to process it. He looked different, not in appearance, but in presence. The certainty he once carried was gone. He noticed her almost immediately, and this time, he didn't hesitate. He walked straight toward her. You knew. No greeting. No softness, just accusation. She frowned slightly. Knew what? Ethan didn't blink. That day. When you saw us. Then, you said we looked like siblings. The memory returned instantly. She remembered saying it. She also remembered not understanding why it had come out at all. I didn't mean anything by it, she said. But Ethan shook his head. That's not what it sounded like. His voice carried something unstable, anger mixed with confusion, like he was trying to force logic onto something that no longer made sense. Before she could respond, he continued, Ava's mother came over. That name alone shifted the air between them. It was supposed to be a normal visit, he said, nothing unusual. His jaw tightened, then she saw a picture. She already knew which one he meant, because that was the only picture left in the house. my father, he added. A pause followed, long heavy. She froze. Ethan continued. Just stared at it like she recognized something she wasn't ready to see. The image formed clearly in her mind now, a quiet room, a photograph, and a single moment that changed everything. She asked who he was, Ethan said, and I told her. His voice lowered, then she said he was her husband. Silence followed immediately, no reaction needed, the meaning was already clear. Ethan exhaled slowly. She explained everything. Their marriage. The past. How it ended years ago. Then. And about her daughter. That was the point where everything connected. She had Ava before she left, he said quietly, no emotion now. Just fact, and that's when it became clear. He stopped speaking for a moment, as if forcing himself to continue. Their family. Her voice dropped slightly. Step-siblings. Ethan nodded once, yes. Neither of them spoke for a moment. The weight of it settled fully between them. We didn't know, he said quickly, almost defensively. She nodded. I believe that. But he didn't look convinced. No, he said, you don't. His eyes locked onto hers. You knew. There it was again, the accusation he couldn't let go of. Her expression tightened slightly. I didn't know. Then why say it? He pushed. She paused, not because she was hiding anything, but because she genuinely didn't have a clearer answer. It just felt strange, she said carefully. The way they looked together. That was all. That's not enough, he replied sharply. Now her patience broke slightly. You think I would stay silent if I actually knew? She asked. The question landed hard, because there was only one honest answer. No. Ethan didn't respond immediately, and in that silence, something shifted in him, not anger anymore, uncertainty. I left because you chose her, she added, not because of anything else. His expression changed subtly. Not softer, just quieter. For the first time, he didn't have a response ready, because deep down, he knew, she wasn't the cause of what happened, she was just the one who walked away from it. Ethan looked down briefly, then exhaled. For a moment, it seemed like he wanted to say more, but nothing came. Instead, he stepped back, not toward her, away, and that was it. No apology, no resolution, no closure, just distance. She watched him for a moment longer, then turned away. Because whatever truth had destroyed their lives, was never hers to fix. And as she walked off, a small smile appeared on her face because she did know. She had known after she saw her picture on his phone. She didn't just say anything, because she wanted both of them to feel the taste of betrayal. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like, press the subscribe button and comment your opinion and put on your notifications for more videos like this.